DNA. Just like if you had bad eyesight, we could put glasses on you. We're not going to change the eyeball, but we're going to change the genetic expression as to how it works. People with eczema, seborrheic psoriasis, you can give them the mangosteen juice. 99% of the time, there will be a positive result, good enough that they're impressed and they will stay on the product. One of my little granddaughters was born with eczema. And her daddy, my oldest son, is a medical doctor. And after, probably, Sue, 5 months, something like that, we started putting her on the mangosteen juice. And it cleared up within 2 weeks. Now, this is one area that I can stand here and honestly tell you that I would stand behind 100%. There's a huge market out there for you if you just find the people who have eczema, seborrheic psoriasis. I've seen patients that had it so bad that we had to use cortisone ointments on them to soothe down the skin. Because if you don't, they can develop a staph infection really easy. Then you've got a real major problem in your hand. But the mangosteen juice, if you'll put them on 6 to 8 ounces a day, usually within 6 to 7 weeks, it will be reduced. The inflammation, the skin will look great. That's a very positive thing that you can get people just with the mangosteen juice. Prevention is everything. And I'm sure if we took a survey right now, most of you could answer this first question I'm going to ask you. What's the number one killer of American people? Heart disease and cancer is right up there next to it now. The average person dies from the first heart attack. Now, one of the things that we do in our clinic, if you come in, we try to talk you into a full MRI of the body. If you've never had it done, you should get it done because it's a baseline that you need by the time you're 50. Then we do a complete ultrasound of the heart, cardiovascular system, lungs. Then we do a complete ultrasound of the body where we look at the carotid arteries, the abdominal aortic artery that comes up out of the heart and goes down in front of the spinal column and then feeds the legs. We look at the saphenous, the popliteals. And from that test, we can really see how much occlusion is occurring in your blood vessels. And if you remember, I told you a few minutes ago, I said that 25% of the children today have cardiovascular disease. Now, when we look at these tests, we can see everything inside, just like we're inside of your body. We can see abnormalities and structures. We can see if you've had a stroke or possibly getting ready to have one. We can see abnormalities and features that gives us a chance to do something about it long before it happens. And I always try to teach my patients that minors become majors. If you have a minor issue and you don't address it, it will eventually become a major issue. So is it easier to deal with it now than later? It certainly is. We're seeing an awful lot of plaque buildup in people's cardiovascular systems, and like the carotid arteries. Now, if you're starting to develop the plaque in the carotid arteries, you're potentially one of those people that will eventually have maybe a stroke or you'll have a heart attack. And it's so common today. And it doesn't just happen to the people over 60. We're seeing it in younger people in their 30s. It's due to our diet. It's due to all the fats in our diet. It's due to all the sugars in the diet. Our liver makes about 2,000 milligrams of cholesterol a day. And your body has to use that to make hormones out of. If you didn't have the cholesterol, you wouldn't have hormones. That's why cholesterol is called the most important sterol. You have to have it. So this has been something else that's been perpetrated on the American people. Somebody or some companies has been trying to convince all of you that you should have a low cholesterol level. That is not true. You need cholesterol, and you need a certain amount of it to make hormones. So what do you think that's been perpetrated on people? It's to sell statin drugs. And that isn't the way it's supposed to be done. We're supposed to be controlling our cardiovascular system by our lifestyle, by what we eat. Now, what happens to us is that when we eat all these trans fats, when I say trans fats, I'm talking about basically the man-made fats, you know, all that hydrogenated oil that's in everything from peanut butter to everything else. That's the stuff that really clogs up in your blood vessels. And the analogy I like to use is that when it gets in there and it oxidizes, mixes with oxygen and so forth, it turns hard. And the analogy I always like to give is like, you know, you fry bacon, the grease is liquid, but you go off and come back a few hours later, and what do you have in that skillet? Hard, thick, oxidized fat, right? Well, that's exactly what's happening to everybody. Oxidizing the fats, the bad fats that's in our food. So what we want to do, we want to consume something that stops that oxidation. You know you form peroxide in your tissue cells. Did you know that? I'm sure all of you knew that. Did you know that you form Clorox in your cells? You know a lot of chemicals out there are chemicals that are duplicated from what we produce in the body. So when you form all the peroxides, that's what oxidizes the fats and so forth. So how do you stop the peroxidation? How do you stop the oxidation of those fats? You take antioxidants, right? Well, one of the very unique properties about the mangosteen juice, it contains xanthones. Of course, all of you know all about the xanthones by now. The xanthones, especially the gamma form, will stop the oxidation of the fats. Now, how important is that to you? It could be a difference between an extra 5 years of your life, or even 10 years if we do all the right things and eat the right things and stop all the oxidation of the fats. How many of you have been told that you shouldn't eat eggs because it causes cholesterol? Do you believe that? No. You know, if you took a survey today, nobody believes anybody, you know? And you really shouldn't. That's what's beautiful about the internet. You can look up things for yourself. Now, everything on the internet isn't necessarily true. But anyway, if you eat an egg has about 130 milligrams of cholesterol in it. And it comes from outside of your body. It comes from a chicken, so it's called exogenous cholesterol. Your body doesn't really accumulate that. Besides that, there's usually enough lecithin or lecithin in the egg that emulsifies and doesn't allow you to absorb any of that anyway. So if your liver makes 2,000 milligrams a day, what's the big issue about 130 milligram exogenous cholesterol egg? It isn't. I've got patients who'll eat 6, 8 eggs a day. It doesn't affect your cholesterol. That whole thing's a joke. That whole thing's designed to sell drugs and to sell you a bad lifestyle. Everything's about money. Everything's about making profits. And it's time we take charge of our own health again. It's time we start teaching our kids and our grandkids about the proper things to do. See, I look at it this way. I'm one of the lieutenants, and this is my army out here. You are a revolutionist. You are leading a revolution. It's a healthy revolution. It's a revolution to regain your nation. It's a revolution to regain your health. It's a revolution to teach children. My personal opinion is that when a young person graduates from high school, they should know as much about how to prevent disease and how to take care of themselves as they do history or English or anything else, and that isn't the case. Yeah. And that's why I love this company, because it isn't just about selling the mangosteen juice. It's about getting people involved. Every cell in the body can use the mangosteen juice. Now, if you took all the DNA out of one person, take it out of the good doctor here. Let's take all your DNA, doctor. Let's take one cell from him. And if we take the DNA out of one cell and they put it into N, it's 6 feet long, right? True. And if you had 70 trillion cells in your body and you took all the DNA out of 70, what's 70 trillion times 6 feet? Come on, mathematicians. That's a lot of zeros, isn't it? If you put all that DNA into N, it would go from here to the sun and back 500 times. Now, all that DNA, there's all kinds of communications going on between this molecule and that molecule and way up that molecule and way back to that one. There's more communications going on with that DNA than we could ever put numbers to express it. How many of you believe that life really crawled out of a rock? I don't believe it. You know what the odds are? If you took Campbell Soup Company, that makes Campbell Soup, you know, the ABC soups, and you put 100 tons of explosive under Campbell Soup Company, you blew it up,